Today I'm going to show you guys my vocal setup. I'm going to show you the gear used, how it's hooked up, and why you might want to think about changing the way you record vocals.
True Sound Studios is in your ears.
Hey guys, what is up? It's Wiesna here. As always, we are at my studio, True Sound Studios, and today I just want to share with you how I record vocals. So I'm sure most of you guys just take your microphone and you plug it straight into your interface, which I'm sure yields some pretty good results. But if you guys are like me, you find that a lot of singers and acoustic guitar players are just super dynamic, that, you know, there's super loud parts and then there's super quiet parts, and you really need some way to be able to control that. So that's where this video comes in. This is a way to insert a compressor along with a separate preamp into your interface to be able to control dynamics and get some really good gain staging into your DAW. Okay, so enough talking, let's check it out. Okay, so here is the vocal chain I was talking about. So first, let's go through this. Microphone, the output, obviously the only connection on the microphone, is going to run from there to a separate mic preamp. Okay, now this mic preamp is going to be separate, and it is a separate piece of gear from your actual interface. This mic preamp then is going to run out, and it's going to go into the input of the compressor. Then the compressor output then is going to run over to the input of our interface. So very simply, microphone output connected to the separate mic preamp, and then the output of the mic preamp then goes to the input of our compressor, and then the output of the compressor then goes to our interface. Now, these are all cables. Generally, you want to use some sort of balanced cable, and it's generally how you're going to route all these different things all together. Okay, so if you don't want to buy a separate mic preamp, but you still want to have the control of a compressor, here is another option. This is going to be option 2. So we take our microphone and we plug the output of the microphone into the input of our interface. Now, every interface, if it has a mic connection, already has a mic preamp in it. But this is where it changes. You need to have an interface that has what's called a send and return. Now, a send and return, what it allows you to do is to hook up something like a compressor or an equalizer externally that is still going to work in conjunction with all this, just like option number 1, but it doesn't require a separate mic preamp. We're going to use actually the mic preamp that's built into the interface. So what you would do then is use the send to send the signal out of the interface into the compressor, and then the output would run to the return on your interface. So once again, you have to have an interface that has a send and return. But option number 2 does work just like option number 1. So for example, my PreSonus 2 in 2 out does not have send and returns, but this is an older interface that I still have laying around. So on the back of this interface, you can see right here we have mic input, and then we have this thing called an insert. Now, an insert is just one connection that allows you to do a send and return. So in this case, you have 2 inputs, and they both have insert points, which means that is how we would hook up our compressor. So the cable you're going to need to hook up an insert to your compressor, one end is going to be a 1/4-inch TRS, and the other end of it is going to have 2 1/4-inch TS connections. Okay, so all I did here was I ran the microphone to a preamp, and I split the preamp output. One output went to a compressor and then into the DAW, and another output just went straight into the DAW. So the top track is going to be the one with the compressor on it, and the bottom track is going to be the one without the compressor. Exactly the same take, so that there's no, variance in anything. Okay, so this is what it looks like when I'm just talking. So it doesn't change this too much, but you can hear a little compression in there, and it kind of adds a little bit more, life to the track. So it doesn't change this too much, but you can hear a little compression in there, and it kind of adds a little bit more, life to the track. But when I start doing things like down to the park, he likes to run in the dark, down to the park, he likes to run in the dark. So you get those singers who are just not very good with dynamics, and that's where you can see all those pops, those spikes, and what that compressor is doing is literally turning that down while it happens. He likes to run, okay, and now he likes to talk real quiet, and then hey, we wanna go. He likes to run, okay, and now he likes to talk real quiet, and then hey, we wanna go. Now you might be saying, this is gonna cost me a lot of money. So let's talk about gear and what is good and what is great to start off with to make this whole setup work. So first, with the microphone, one of my very first mics with a Samson CO1. You can roughly get that microphone for about $70 brand new. I've seen them as cheap as $35 used. It is a condenser microphone. It is actually a really good microphone for the money. Another one of my favorite like budget-friendly microphones is a Rode NT1A microphone. And so then that would run to the mic preamp. Now, there's a whole bunch of different types of mic preamps that you can buy. One of my very first mic preamps was a Presonus Tube Pre. Now those go for about $129 roughly new, but I've seen them as cheap as $50 used. And I used the Presonus Tube Mic Pre for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years, and I recorded some really great vocals with that mic preamp. Now for a compressor, I love DBX products. I think they are extremely affordable, they're very budget friendly, and they are very flexible. And particularly, I used to use the DBX 266XL. This compressor I'm not actually sure you can actually buy the XL version anymore, but when I did look them up, it was roughly about $130 new if you could find them, but typically, once again, about another $50 to buy one used, and they're on pretty much any website you can think of. This compressor is great because it's actually a 2-channel compressor, so if you wanted to buy another mic preamp or maybe a dual mic preamp, you could essentially have 2 separate compressors. For the compressor settings, what I typically like to do was make a very fast attack and a very fast release, and this essentially would just help cut off the initial fast attacks that most new vocalists and new acoustic guitar players tend to not be so great at. They tend to jump in on words really quickly, and all the beginnings are really hard, or when they strum, and then they strum. So that'll help really cut down on that. Now the ratio, typically I went from around 3:1 to 4:1. Now the amount of gain reduction, I usually try to stay in between like 3 and 5 decibels, but it's something you just need to hear. Obviously this is going to be permanently on the vocal track, so you don't want to overdo it, but also you don't want to, have not enough on there and it's not really doing anything for you. But then the output of our compressor would then run to the input on our interface. Generally you want to run into the line input, which is generally, but not always, some sort of 1/4 inch or TRS input. Now for interfaces, I still to this day use my Presonus interface on my producing station that's actually inside of my house, not in the studio, but I think it's a great interface. It's about $100 new. I really don't think you can go wrong with that. So what I find so great about this setup is that, number one, obviously you get to control those dynamics that are often tough to control when you just have a mic plugged straight into your interface. You've probably had that situation where you start turning up the mic preamp and you end up finding you're getting too much hiss, and then the vocalist starts singing too loud, and then now you're clipping level, and that just sounds terrible. And another problem with that is when you start turning it down, you're not getting enough signal into your DAW, and now you find yourself just constantly boosting to try to get it loud enough to get over the track, and this turns into a real problem. So with this setup, what we're able to do is we are able to control the amount of input coming into our mic preamp. Then we are able to control how much output of the preamp we give to the compressor. we can compress those initial attacks or those really loud parts of a performance and kind of help tame them and turn them down a little bit. Almost every compressor has some sort of output setting, so even though you're maybe losing some signal by the compressor compressing that signal, we are actually able to make up for it with our makeup gain or the output gain on the compressor. And then when that output of the compressor signal goes into our interface, we have one more chance to make up enough volume before it hits our DAW. So that's the way I've been recording vocals and sometimes even acoustic guitar for, gosh, it's probably been over 12 years now. I really like how the compressor helps out with the volume changes that go on during a recording session. So this is not going to help out with that singer or rapper that pretty much yells and then gets down to a super whisper. But it will help out with, the normal dynamic range from any male or female vocalist. I think it makes a vocal even easier to deal with after it gets inside of your DAW, and then you can use a compressor a little bit more inside of the DAW to kind of give you the sound, the vocal sound that you want. So if you guys bought a compressor and you're not really sure how to use it, check out the next video. This video is going to be dedicated to how to use a compressor to do like hip hop vocals, pop vocals. So once again, I hope you guys learned something from this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to stay up to date with TrueSound Studios on a day-to-day basis, follow us on our Instagram page. I post on Instagram every single day, and I'll keep you guys up to date with everything that's going on with the studio. If you're new to our YouTube channel and you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more content. You can also listen to or purchase any of the beats that I personally make right here at TrueSound Studios on our SoundCloud page, TrueSound on the Beat. You can find all the links in the description below this video. So once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm Ryan Wiesna. We're here at my studio, TrueSound Studios, and TrueSound Studios is in your ears.